Imagine standing on a dusty plain as the ground trembles and the air fills with the metallic whisper of blades and the low hiss of poisoned darts. Ancient weapons were not just tools. They were design philosophies that turned terrain, fear, and vulnerability into decisive advantage. First, the Dacian Falx, a terrifying two-handed curved blade used by the people beyond Rome's Danube frontier. It looked almost like a sickle on a pole but was wielded with brutal leverage, capable of hooking over Roman shields and delivering blows that split helmets and peeled open armor. The accounts from the Roman wars describe legionaries who found their protective gear useless against that inward curving edge. Formations had to alter shields and even sacrifice the standard tight ranks because a single Falx strike could shatter bone and morale in one sweep. Second, the Scythed chariot. An invention built to exploit speed and shock, mounted blades at the axle or on swinging arms so that when the chariot screamed into a line of foot soldiers it did more than trample. It turned the front rank into a cascading wall of bodies and panic. Scythed chariots were expensive and risky, but on open plains they were psychological weapons as much as physical ones. Horses and men who looked invincible could be sheared apart in an instant, and the sight of a bloody furrow could rout even disciplined troops. Third, the ururmi, the flexible sword from South India, looks like a long ribbon of steel, but in battle it is a nightmare. A wielder would swing a dozen feet of whip-like blade in a circle, turning close quarters into a lethal radius where a single misstep meant decapitation, or being flayed by a blade that wraps and bites. The ururmi required incredible skill, but when mastered it allowed one fighter to hold entire stairways or narrow passes against dozens. Its unusual form also defeated conventions of armor and parrying because there is no single point of contact to block. Fourth, the atlatl or spear thrower. Deceptively simple, extended a human arm's power and turned spears into semi-projectiles with brutal penetrating force. Cultures from the Americas to Australasia used this tool to punch holes through hides, mail, and flesh from distances that kept hunters and warriors safe. A skilled atlatl user could outrange bows of certain eras and deliver kinetic impact that shattered skulls and ribs, and unlike straightforward arrows, these darts could be fitted with barbs or poison to ensure wounds bled out or incapacitated, changing how battles began by letting skirmishers pick off key targets before lines even closed. Fifth, the poison blowgun, a silent killer perfected in the humid corridors of jungles, where tribes loaded darts with cura, plant alkaloids, or other deadly toxins and fired them from slender tubes. The blowgun's real power lay in its stealth and the inevitability of death. A hit to an exposed limb might not look fatal to onlookers, but within minutes a hunted man's muscles failed and breathing slowed. On a battlefield or in an ambush, a single poison dart could remove the leader, create paralysis in key fighters, and turn an otherwise winnable encounter into chaos while rescuers hesitated to approach for fear of contamination. Each of these weapons shares something in common beyond lethality. They exploited a specific weakness in contemporary defenses and forced tactical evolution. The Falx forced Rome to redesign helmets and experiment with reinforcements. Scythed chariots pushed infantry to tighten formations or fight from covered terrain. The ururmi made choke points deadly and altered the value of armor versus mobility. The atlatl extended the reach of light forces and blurred the line between hunting and warfare. And poison compelled armies to rethink the risks of pursuit and the handling of the wounded. Moreover, their real genius was psychological, not just mechanical. A battlefield where men feared hidden darts, whip-like blades, or roaring chariots is a battlefield where hesitation grows and command breaks down. Ancient generals had to weigh not only the physical surrender of a fortress or field, but the morale tax their troops bore after seeing friends cut down in ways they had no defense against. And that tax often decided battles faster than numbers or steel. Today we romanticize swords and sieges, but these 5 weapons show another side of military history. Innovation driven by environment and necessity, from the jungle's poison to the steppes' reach, each weapon evolved to answer a simple question: how do you make a fight end on your terms? And the answers were often ugly, brilliant, and terrifying. So when you picture ancient warfare, don't just imagine lines of men with spears, imagine engineers and hunters and shamans shaping death itself, designing tools that rewired tactics and terrified enemies into retreat. And remember that behind every shocking weapon was a culture solving a problem with the materials, landscape, and cunning it had available, leaving us a record of violence that teaches as much about survival and adaptation as it does about cruelty and conquest.